Trudeau has a lot of people angry, disappointed with him, and just overall losing faith in his ability to lead. It's never been more evident because we are seeing actual members of the Liberal Party telling Trudeau it's time to move on. It seems like the Liberals are done with Trudeau. So in the first video we have a Liberal Party member talking about how Trudeau needs to move on. I've got another video lined up talking about how the premiers are pushing back at Trudeau, how they're done with him as well, including the NDP and Liberal premiers. And then I have a video with Pierre explaining some very important things, and I think his language needs to be listened to carefully, because if Pierre is going to be the next one stepping up, we have to pay attention to what he's saying. So stick around for that, because he gets into some stuff we haven't heard from him before, some new language. It's very important. Let's dive into today's videos.
This obviously was a budget that was designed to try to pull the Liberals out of a bit of a political downward spin that they've consistently been in for months. You're raising concerns about what this could mean for productivity, for the economy. It also has some things in there that they think will be appealing. In your opinion, as a former politician, is this enough to turn things around for the Trudeau government?
No, I don't think so, Mercedes, but that's partly because, and I've said this before, I subscribe to what I call the Seinfeld theory of political longevity, which is, Seinfeld, great show, lasted 9 seasons. And if you think in terms of modern political history in Canada, think back, Brian Mulroney, 9 seasons. Jean Chrétien, 10 seasons. Stephen Harper, 9 seasons.
It's interesting that he's listing off, of course, the Seinfeld theory. The difference is Seinfeld stopped when Seinfeld was on top and everybody was stoked and looking for more. Right now, everybody's done with Trudeau and they are far from stoked. They want him gone. This is a former Liberal minister being like, yeah, I subscribe to this theory. His time's up, basically, is what he's saying. His time's up. So
even if you go back to Pierre Trudeau, he got an extension after being defeated after 10 seasons. Margaret Thatcher, 10 years. And even in France, at the end of the de Gaulle era, the crowds in the streets were chanting 10 ans, ça suffit. So winning again after 3 governments, after 9 or 10 years, it'll be 10 years in October 2025, that's a tough sell. So I don't think it's enough, because I think people are going to say, that's, enjoyed the show, but it's time for something new.
He's saying it, again, way more polite, way more politically. Like, yeah, I enjoyed the show. It's time for something new. That's a former Liberal cabinet minister who's saying, like, Trudeau, move on. And that's because, like, definitely the older generation Liberals, a lot of videos today. The older generation Liberals are like, dude, he's crazy. And it's because he's taken the party so far in the wrong direction that he's losing his own base of support, which is pretty wild to see. In this next video, we have, the premiers are pushing back too. And again, this is including NDP and Liberal premiers. So let's get into this.
Ottawa's tax hike on big capital gains has been framed as a tax on the rich, but some entrepreneurs say it threatens Canada's overall economy.
Anytime taxes go up, it takes dollars out of the economy. I'm going to have less of an opportunity to deploy that capital into the next startup.
In Tuesday's budget, the federal government announced it was increasing the tax on capital gains, the profits earned from an asset sale.
Just on that topic, I am a real estate agent in London, Ontario, but if you want to work with me or my network all across Canada, reach out to me in the link below. We can handpick somebody for your area. That being said, when it comes to the capital gains tax, of course, talk to your accountants, but a lot of people have freaked out that they're going to lose on their personal house. From what I understand, I'm not an accountant, but from what I understand, your personal residence is going to remain tax exempt. It would only be on additional properties if you were to do any real estate stuff with that. But the bigger thing that he talks about, and I've been seeing stories about, is, we're disincentivizing entrepreneurs who often are building software companies or just building, even, legacy businesses like trades companies. Often they're bought by money that is outside of Canada. That brings money into Canada and then would have them reinvesting in more businesses. So let's hear what they have to say and, about what the premiers are pushing back about.
Businesses will pay tax on 2/3 of those gains, up from half. That will also apply to some people who report a gain of $250,000 or more. But with the economy stuck in neutral and productivity slumping, it's a mistake, this investor says.
Right now, we're in a place where we desperately need more investment.
The plan is also getting bad reviews from some of the premiers.
It's the same old Liberal plan. Stick your hands in someone's pocket, tax the death out of people.
But Canada's finance...
Okay, Doug Ford does not actually stand up to Trudeau on anything. Every single opportunity he's had to say no to Trudeau for something, he's never stood up. So, like, I don't know why he's always on his high horse about this stuff. Like, he's really not helping, and I understand he's, like, conservative and, you know, you're supposed to be helping. But he has not stood up. He's not helped. He's not done anything. He's kind of brutal, to be honest, so...
Minister says it won't affect that many people.
We are asking those at the very top to pay a little bit more. As an individual, you only start paying a little more after your first $250,000 in capital gains.
The capital gains hike isn't the only thing that has premiers up.
They keep making it seem like, you know, it's only such a small percentage. It's not. It'd be a very high percentage of people who are going to pay that. Again, mostly older people. But like if you started investing at 25, you're now 65. You've got all, you know, money in investments through maybe one single investment property, or not even that. You've just been investing in the stock markets or, you know, whatever you're invested in. If you're now selling to get access to that money because you're like, oh, you know, I'm retired now, I'm going to sell it, I'm going to put the cash in my account, you're going to pay the capital gains on that tax, again, from what I understand, over the $250,000. But, you know, talk to an accountant about it. But that's where it's like, okay, let's say you built a legacy trades business. Let's say you built a legacy restaurant. Let's say whatever it is, you're this small business owner, you've spent all this time building this thing, and then you eventually want to sell it now to fund your retirement. And then they're like, oh, who cares about them? Like, these people, they'll just pay us extra money. We'll just spend it all anyways.
Up in arms.
They're overtaxing, overspending, overborrowing, and over-interfering in provincial affairs.
In a recent letter, all 13 premiers accuse Ottawa of encroaching on their jurisdiction.
All 13 is wild because that includes, I think, 2 or 3 Liberal premiers, and then I think 3 or 4 NDP. Maybe it's only 2 or 3 NDP. But either way, like, it's 4 or 5 of them would be people who should, in theory, not be signing that letter supporting Trudeau. Like, it just goes to show, like, people are done with them.
Plans to spend billions more on housing, pharmacare, and a new dental program. Trudeau says he's only spending more because premiers aren't doing enough.
I'd always rather work with provinces, but if we have to, I will go around them and be there for Canadians.
If you disagree with me, then I will go around you, even though I will be overstepping what I'm supposed to be doing. Like classic Trudeau, threatening, ego-driven. It's just what we expect from him. But here's where it gets really important again, because this is going to be the gentleman who is likely going to be taking over after Trudeau. We need to listen to what he's saying here as he's interviewed at this food bank in Toronto, because is he saying enough? You know, these are important things. Canadians are struggling. Canadians are tapped out. So it's like we need to know what's going to happen. So let's really listen to what he has to say here.
Unbelievable. It's a 500% increase. We have half of Canadians eating less than they should, a fourth of school children going to school malnourished. This is the miserable life that people are living after 9 years of inflationary debt and spending by the Trudeau government that has destroyed purchasing power, taken people's money, punished their work, and doubled their housing costs.
The government brought out their budget this week, and they would say that we're making life more affordable. I look at the cost of everything going up, and I think that has to be wiping out all of these gains that they say they're making for people.
What gains? What gains?
So anytime the government says we're spending more to make life more affordable, just know that that means more money is created into the system, usually through debt, because they're only taxing so much. Most of it's through borrowed funds. When that money is created, it means our dollar is worth less, because the more M2 money supply, it means the less that our dollar is actually worth. So when they say that they're making things more affordable through their spending, they're actually making things more expensive. So just like reverse whatever they're saying, basically.
You know, for example, there's a lot of beautiful slogans, like a school food program. Only problem is there's no food. They don't provide any food. They promised this program 3 years ago. There's not a single ham sandwich that has been served at any school anywhere in Canada. There's been a lot of bureaucracy created and money spent, but at the end of the day, the proof is in the pudding. And we have...
Get those kids the hang sandwich in the pudding.
Have more people at food banks than ever before. In fact, the food banks are literally running out of food. so that some people are joining Facebook groups to learn tricks on how to eat food out of a garbage can. The Dumpster Diving Network, look it up on Facebook. 8,000 members now.
It's crazy that there's a Facebook group that exists around that. But the other thing is, like, you know, these food banks sometimes are abused by immigrants who are coming into Canada. But the other thing is, it's like, the immigration has become so much of a problem from a food perspective because, again, like, you know, we always use these individual immigration numbers on like the calendar year, but, you know, we just had 1.3. Before that, we had 1.1. Before that, we had, you know, like 800,000 or whatever it was. So like these numbers are just huge and they continue to compound on top of each other. So and again, like, I'm not just attacking immigrants saying that they're bad. What I'm saying is, hey, if we keep this up, then the immigrants themselves will also be suffering because they're the ones who end up at the food bank. And then they end up taking the resources from the Canadians who don't have ability to, you know, feed their families. And the fact is, Canadians should be fed first. Like, let's be realistic. But we also shouldn't be promising these lives to these immigrants saying, hey, come to Canada, you know, you're going to be able to get all set up, but you're going to be stealing from the food bank. I'm not sure. Did you guys see that video that was going around Twitter of that immigrant guy from India who was saying that he steals from the food banks to save money? Meanwhile, he's making supposedly $98,000 working at TD. Like, I don't know if you guys saw that video, but it was wild. And the fact is, immigrants are getting punished. Canadians are getting punished. Prices are going up at the grocery store because of all these people who are coming in. And it's like, immigration is such an important topic right now. And we don't talk about it enough. Like, let's see what Pierre has to say. If he thinks it is involved, let's see.
Kind of horror story that we never imagined possible before Justin Trudeau. But when you tax the farmers who make the food and the truckers who ship the food, you tax all who buy the food, and people can't afford to buy it anymore. But
so what do you do to fix that? You've got a budget deficit that has become structural. Yeah. It is inflation going up. The Bank of Canada interest rates are not coming down. All of those things make it not just more difficult for Canadian families, but for the government to pay the bills as well. So how do you deal with that? How do you make life better for Canadians, make life more affordable?
Well, the good news is that life wasn't like this before 9 years of Trudeau, and it won't be like this after he's gone. We're going to axe the carbon tax to lower the cost of the farmers who produce the food, the truckers who ship the food, and the local grocers who sell us our food, so we can have more affordable food. We're going to cut income tax so
that's an important thing. We need to make sure, like, he's a big axe the tax guy. He has the slogan, you know, and I think axing the tax is so wildly important for the future success of Canada. I cannot stress that enough. The carbon tax is a big deal. So we need to make sure that we're prepared to hold Pierre accountable if he doesn't axe the tax again. It's likely that he's going to win. So if he doesn't, you know, we have all this here. He needs to be held accountable if he doesn't, because this is important for Canada. This needs to go away. And then he says something, he started to say he's going to lower income tax there.
Affordable food. We're going to cut income tax so that working people bring home more of each dollar they earn and they can afford food.
Oh, cut income tax? I hadn't heard that before.
Oh, I've said it many times. We will be cutting income tax. We have to, because the working poor can't afford to pay their bills because they lose so much. You make it and Trudeau takes it. We have to cut taxes to reward hard work. We're going to cap government spending and cut waste.
Yeah, so that's crazy. Like, that's kind of, I mean, big news to hear that he's going to be cutting actual income tax. I mean, if he's going to say he's cutting income tax, that's a big deal because, you know, we have this massive deficit that they need to make up for. We're going to have to cut government spending for that, which means we can ideally cut income taxes and get rid of the freaking carbon tax. Got to axe that tax.
To bring down deficits, interest rates, and inflation. And we're going to require municipalities get out of the way so builders can build homes people can afford by making it a requirement that cities permit 15% more home building per year as a condition of getting federal funds. And that way we can build the homes that make it affordable. It's hard to believe, but, you know, 9 years ago when I was housing minister, the average rent was $973 a month. That was not even a decade ago. So we've proven we can make housing affordable. We've got to build the homes to do it.
Do you feel like the Trudeau Liberals, after saying you had no housing plan for so long, after mocking what you were putting forward, they're stealing it now? I mean, they announced, we'll release federal lands, federal buildings for homes. Is that a compliment, or how do you see it?
Well, if they were actually going to do it, I'd be happy. But what they've done is they've taken all of my ideas and they've promised that some point in the future they will do them. But the reality is they're
Trudeau loves promising. He does not love delivering.
They're big on talk, short on execution. As Elvis Presley might say, a little less conversation, a little more action, please. Since Sean Fraser took over as housing minister, after he ruined the immigration system, home building's gone down. This month, housing starts are down. Next month, they'll be down again. The month after that, they will be down, according to his own housing agency. So the problem is that...
To be fair, part of that is because we've gotten to this interest rate environment that we are in, which is, and most people don't realize this, but majority of new building is initiated by investors because that's the way that funding works from the banks. They often need to see some level of like, oh, you've sold so many units, you've got these contracts signed, and that's how like the building goes. That being said, he still sucks as the housing minister. He was a brutal immigration minister. Like the fact that he's like created an immigration problem, which is again, massive problem, gotta stop. And then became like in charge of the housing, which is one of the biggest side problems that's happened downwind from the immigration. It's kind of funny.
We've got an incompetent, costly, bureaucratic Trudeau government that stands in the way. We need to get them out of the way so that we can build the homes.
You mentioned Sean Fraser. It shocks me that the Liberals broke Canadians' trust in the immigration system. They broke the consensus. I live near a food bank at a church where recent immigrants are showing up lining up all morning, every Wednesday, to go to a food bank because they arrived in Canada, housing's too much, food's too much.
Yeah, they were sold the Canadian dream. And again, that being said, sold the Canadian dream. There's also a ton of scamming and lying going on from the immigrant communities. Like if you look at some of these like Indian immigration centers that are just pumping people over from India, they're posting ads on Instagram and all these things like in Indian languages. Like, hey, I came over on a holiday visa, and then I got my work permit, and now I'm here and I brought my wife over. And it's like, okay. So they're like promising all this stuff, and it's like, guys, like we need an overhaul on the immigration system. And that I really wish Pierre would be way more vocal about that, but he kind of is, buddying up with the Indian immigrants, and he wants some votes there. But it's like, I really wish that he would hammer immigration way more than he does, because if we could axe the tax, hammer immigration, and then start to become more of a resource-based economy, Canada could be crushing, especially for like young Canadians like me. We want Canada to be doing better. Like I loved being Canadian. I used to love it.
Do we need to get things under control? I mean, even the Prime Minister's now saying, we're bringing in people faster than we could absorb. And I think, okay, well, maybe don't do that.
If only he knew somebody who could have done something different.
maybe not do that. So do we have to deal with 900,000 to 1 million temporary residents coming in each year?
This is the legacy of Sean Fraser. He's the guy that unleashed chaos in temporary immigration. He made it run out of control. And that's not my words, that's the Prime Minister's words. But the puzzling part is, okay, you have a minister who totally ruined the immigration system. The logical thing to do is fire him, put him on the back bench, and then ask him not to run again in the next election. But instead he puts him in charge of housing. No wonder housing costs have doubled after 8 years of Trudeau. And another reason just to fire the whole government in a carbon tax election, so that we can elect a new common sense government to axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, stop the crime.
So again, like he keeps saying these things, like that was some political jujitsu there. Like he managed to answer the question, try and make Sean Fraser look bad, try and make Trudeau look bad, but never once said like, yeah, I'm going to really cut that immigration. I'm going to fix this thing. Like that's again why it's important that we hold him accountable for his language, because if he's coming in to help fix Canada, which is great, we're happy to see the changes. We're happy to see that these ideas are coming in. It's like, hey, Why didn't you say there that you were going to slash immigration down to, you know, minuscule numbers? Like, we could be taking in 200,000 immigrants, and percentage-wise, it would still be a lot. But anyways, I am a real estate agent in Ontario. If you want to work with me or anybody in my team across Canada, we can handpick somebody for your area. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and have a great rest of your day.